and such was elaborately and successfully written in many of the Eastern papers and journals and so on. And I really felt that I had found my life purpose with architecture. It was a way of bringing together my technical background in engineering with a sense of philosophy and depth that for me engineering lacked. Just didn't have the breadth and depth that architecture afforded. And with that, then I philosophically really moved off to what was then the backwoods of Vermont to live a kind of Thoreauian life of philosophy, and never imagining that it would somehow harmonize with quite a number of people. And had a sense of joy and adventure, and it had a genuine sense of harmony with the natural world in which I was intimately involved. I even thought earlier in my life that I would just be a forest ranger, a real hermit out there. And you know, with the advent of marriage and children and all that, it didn't seem like that was going to work out so well. But 3 years of Air Force and the severity of that training, even though I did not have to shoot anybody, gave me a real pause to take a look at my life, and it led to architecture, which seemed to be a harmonious wedding of technology and philosophy, and allowed my artistic tendencies of painting and somewhat dormant at the time poetry to begin to expose themselves. So that was fortuitous. After I finished the Air Force, actually, while I was still in the Air Force, I had 1 year of training where I was not flying as a primary mission. So I found one of my old professors in engineering who had a philosophical bent. Fabian was his name. Wonderful, sort of balding, small, Jewish, haltingly spoken individual that had a sense. He was a philosophy major, he told me, in his earlier training. So I counseled with him and asked him what the hell I should do, whether this track was something that he resonated with, and he was very supportive. And the course of action was one more example of every major decision in my life was made in opposition to all those around me. The Air Force, my pulling out of engineering with a prospering future with the Tennessee Valley Authority in Knoxville, Tennessee, and even my being forced into the military school that my mother felt would satisfy her ambitions for me, which didn't. You can't do that for another person. So the military school was a real disaster. I held on during those years, very much like the great poet Rilke, who was also schooled in military. And we kept ourselves alive with opposition. Just very much like the underground in time of warfare. It was eternal 6-year warfare with the school. And I was always in trouble. It seems like, looking back, I guess I had to be in trouble in order to survive it. I just couldn't survive that bullshit, it was just too much.
What kind of trouble did you get into?
Oh, it was...
Give us some specific examples, and what do you think was underneath it psychologically for you?
The first thing that comes to mind is that with the Nazi-esque atmosphere of the military school, which was really an informant system. There was an honor system and all that. And the honor system, of course, only works if you turn people in. That means you've got to be out scouting for anybody wrongdoing. And so one day I went out for, I was just an ordinary football practice, and my jersey was missing, so I picked up a jersey lying on the water tank in our shower room, which was drying from another guy, and I wore that out to practice and put it back on. But anyway, I got turned in for that. And so that kind of thing, and I wasn't terribly good at academics either, although I managed to survive by spending every Saturday morning during those 6 years in Saturday school, making up for whatever deficiencies that had come up that previous week. That's the kind of thing. It was, if somebody, under all this sort of pressure, felt it necessary to get a little help from the guy next door, and somebody found out. I never did that because I didn't want to inform, and so I really never looked around. But that individual would then be drawn before a small, august, senatorial body of students, 6 or 8 guys, and he would be tried, and then if he found guilty, he had to stand up in front of the assembly of 400 boys and apologize for this. I thought that was just absolutely the worst kind of way to deal with that kind of thing, and I still feel that. So anyway, that's the kind of thing. Nothing very...
What was the name of that school?
Macaulay.
And where is it?
It's in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
And it was very highly thought of. My uncle went there, and he was a big deal. He was a football star, and he was a leader of the band. And Mother wanted me to be following right along in his tracks if I could.
That was her brother?
That was her brother,
uh-huh.
Her younger brother.
And what position did you play in football, and how important was that to you?
Well, as in those times of growing up, especially in the South, this was in the late 40s, it was important to be manly, we were practicing to be men. I even have a poem about that now, where we used to beat up a fat guy, practicing to be men. So we were practicing to be men, and so football was important. I was a varsity football player, a backfield player, and then I was a varsity ball player, hardball player, baseball. Then I went on to boxing, and I was successful in that. I was Golden Gloves champion of Chattanooga, and I kept that up on into college. I think I was, and then I boxed in the Mid-South Association and won that. So I was an established tough guy.
Uh-huh. And what weight class did you box at?
Middle class.
Uh-huh. Would you read us that poem about beating up the fat kid?
That's let's see if I can. That's a work in process right now. I can go get that. Would you like for me to get that?
Yeah.
That fat kid?